Someone says something rude or sarcastic and it lands sideways. There's frustration there, of course, but very often underneath that comment, there's something else going on. Something like this. Maybe if I say this just sharp enough, you'll notice. Maybe then you'll see what's bothering me. Maybe then I'll matter to you. Sarcasm is rarely random. And this is where sarcasm quietly crosses into something else. When sarcasm is used not to play, but to protect, when it becomes the safest way to express frustration without saying it directly. That's what we're talking about when we say passive aggressive. It's not about being mean, it's about expressing something indirectly because saying it openly feels too risky. Now, I want to make an important distinction. In some relationships, some people genuinely enjoy being sassy, saying A is true when B is really true, with a little twinkle in their eye. There's no hard feelings, just the opposite. They're sparring, they're joking, maybe even flirting a little bit. But there's a difference. If I say something snarky because it feels too hazardous or too risky, or to say it sincerely, look out, that's where sarcasm becomes a little bit more on the passive aggressive side. It's usually an indirect way of expressing disappointment, longing, or an unmet expectation without having to risk being vulnerable. There's an upside here is that you get your point across. The downside is that it can create a small distance between you because it implies something about us feels unsafe for me to be open with you. Imagine your spouse walks into the kitchen, looks around, and says, "Wow, must be nice to relax when someone else takes care of everything." Now, that is challenging because what's being communicated isn't just about the dishes. There's an implied expectation you didn't meet, but it's wrapped up in this kind of humor cocoon with a little bit of tone zinger. And that's the tricky part. Sarcasm keeps the speaker safe. They don't have to come out and say what they really want, and it leaves you with very little to work with. That's one of the defining features of passive aggressive communication. Something important is being expressed, but in a way that makes it hard to respond well. In moments like that, your nervous system is already deciding what to do. Could be fight, could be flight, could be defend, could be counterattack, could be whatever feels familiar for you. So you might fire back with something like, "Oh, I'm sorry, was I supposed to read your mind today?" That's understandable. But once that happens, the cycle is off and running. Now it's not about dishes or connection anymore. It's about who's wrong, who's defensive, and who's going to win. And in my work with couples, I have yet to hear one spouse say, "Woo, I won that argument. I feel so good. I'm glad we did that." Instead, here's the shift. You don't control what someone says. If someone says something with a little bit of that barb in it, you can't unhear that, but you do control where you place your attention, where you aim the spotlight. I think of actors on a stage who have memorized their script. And in family relationships, those scripts can be so repetitive, you could recite them blindfolded. And when the moment comes, it's hard to improvise your way out of it. If you simply react, your next snarky comment writes the script for what happens next. It's really effortless. It writes itself. Passive aggressive exchanges thrive on that kind of automatic responding. Nobody pauses, nobody names what's really happening. The cycle just keeps going round and round. But if you pause, you get to influence the direction of the conversation. I want you to take yourself out of the scene you're tempted to reenact. Be the person willing to shine the spotlight on something different, something that might actually be important to the other person. When sarcasm is doing the work of passive aggression, one option is to bring it into the light, not to shame it, but to clarify it. Here's what you could say: "Help me understand. Were you trying to get my attention by pointing something out with humor?" Or even simpler, "That sounded important. What were you hoping I'd hear just now when you said that?" Most people, when given that kind of opening, will respond with something like, "Oh, no, I wasn't trying to embarrass you. I just felt ignored, maybe unappreciated." At least that's the hope, giving them a chance to kind of come back and rectify with you. Now, you're no longer dealing with sarcasm. You've lifted the mask and invited them to share what it was hiding underneath. Now, you've got something you both can work with. Now you're dealing with meaning. When two people get stuck in a cycle, their scope narrows and their options shrink. It's like an internal radar system sensing threat. And when that happens, one of the first things that disappears is good intent. I'll hear couples say, "That's not what I meant," until they're blue in the face. But in a cycle, even that gets missed, despite the fact that understanding intent is often what we most want in a discussion like this. Everyone wants to be understood for why they said something, but we stop asking. So instead of debating tone, you can cut to the heart of it. You can ask, "Can you help me understand what you want me to know right now?" That question alone can interrupt an entire negative cycle because it tells the other person, "I'm not here to fight you, I'm here to understand you." Another powerful move is simple clarification. For example, okay, you said, "Must be nice to relax." And what I heard was that it looks like I'm over here enjoying myself while something important is weighing on you and it doesn't feel nice at all. Did I get that right? This does two things. One is it slows down the interaction and it gives both of you a chance to correct without escalating. That's regulation. In fact, it's co regulation. It's also leadership. Reactive people keep moving fast and they stay stuck. They go faster and faster and faster, but they don't go anywhere. Emotional leaders slow things down and they offer understanding. Sarcasm usually points to something that matters. Let's say you have an upcoming project at work and you've been waiting on another team before you can move forward. Coworker, unaware of that delay, says, "Oh, don't worry, take your time. Deadlines are more of a suggestion around here, apparently." Kind of jokey, kind of snarky. What's underneath? Probably frustration about reliability or maybe fairness, maybe mixed in with the concern about how they're going to look. Am I looking professional? What does this do for my image? Sarcasm protects them from naming disappointment or fear directly. You could react with the facts. You could just say, "Hey, I couldn't work on this until I got XYZ from development. What do you expect me to do?" Or you could get curious. You could explain the delay and ask, "Can you tell me what's been weighing on you about this? Or what makes this especially important to you?" You see, in that case, you're not agreeing. You're not giving anything up either. You're just staying curious instead of getting reactive and playing the game. In another example, if your wife wants you to pick up around the house, it might be about the chores or it might be about something more. When I asked Stacy about this, she described regularly feeling like she was drowning in work at home. One night she found debris stuck inside of Josh's coffee mug again and blurted out, "Really? I guess we're okay with living in filth." I tracked with her in that moment, right there in my office, and asked her what she felt when she saw that grime in the coffee cup. She paused. "Alone," she said. "Like what I need is completely invisible to Josh." Is that something that comes up in your relationship? Or maybe one spouse complains to the other and saying, "I think you're too passive," but they say it this way: "Guess I'll just make decisions myself, like always." Underneath that might be a longing for partnership. You could respond with this: "It sounds like you feel like I'm not helping with decisions that affect us. I imagine you're wanting to feel more like we're in this together." Am I getting that right? When you name the longing, defensiveness often softens. Now, here's a quick caveat. Sometimes the person you're dealing with isn't a partner or a colleague acting in good faith. Maybe they're just looking to score a verbal victory. Maybe they've shown you their true colors. In those cases, you can use a pause on purpose. Sometimes the most powerful response is nothing. No facial expression, no counter comment, no defensiveness. You could just even respond with, huh. That pause does something important. It slows the nervous system down. It keeps you where you belong, in control, and it interrupts the automatic back and forth. It says, I'm not participating in this. Silence, when used intentionally, is not passive. And that matters because passive aggressive communication is reactive and indirect. Intentional silence is grounded and chosen. Now, what do you do if the emotions keep rising? Maybe even it's somebody that you care about. One thing you can do is bring awareness back to the body. You might say, I can see this is really coming alive for you right now. I hear the emphasis in your voice and I notice your arms are crossed. That tells me that this matters to you. By doing that, you're attuning to the person and bringing that person back into the present moment. And when people speak from the present rather from the pile up of old hurts, they're more likely to find softer words and more vulnerable feelings. Often, being seen in that way helps someone settle. And finally, if this is someone you care about, you can name your commitment right in the middle of the tension. Couples who are able to interrupt negative cycles, they're often able to say something like this: I can feel myself getting reactive with you right now, but I want to stay in your team and understand you. I really do want to hang in here with you right here. That one statement can change the entire tone of a conversation. Passive aggressive comments don't mean someone is the enemy. They usually mean something important hasn't found a safe way to be said yet. And when you respond with curiosity instead of reactivity, you create space for something much more meaningful than winning an argument. You create the possibility of connection. Until next time, I'm rooting for you.